Hey everybody, and welcome back to IndieQuest, your celebration of the indie and obscure. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Leslie, which I'm just gonna enunciate it and just be like, Alex, I can say my own name, you know. And my co-host here, the Captain Drachma himself. How are you doing, man?
I never really thought about it, but that would be hilarious if this entire time Alex struggles to say your name. For anybody who doesn't know, maybe doesn't listen to Drunk Friend and doesn't understand that Alex, one of our Polymedia Network buddies, can't say Josh's name. It would be hilarious to me if Alex is stumbling over it all this time and you also struggle to say your own name. That would be like, you're just like, Josh, yeah, that would be wild. I would feel really bad for Alex if the guy who has the name
be like, Josh,
also struggles.
Just do one of those, yeah, you know.
It's really because of the Buzzsprout thing, I think. Like the Josh Leslie Buzzsprout, like it's just a lot of zzz and sp and all that. So
yeah, just the way that script is written or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh man, I will say something. I've been playing a lot of good games lately. This is an indie game podcast, and I have they do something every once in a while called Steam Next Fest, and they do it every 3 months or so. And basically what it is they're like, hey, indie devs, what do you got? And then they just put a bunch of demos out there, just like of any indie game that's probably going to come out in the next couple years. Some of them are like super work in progress. Some of them are further along. And I just kind of dived in. Have you ever tried this out at all yourself?
I have not, actually. I should be a better indie content creator and try out indie demos, but I've just never been. I shouldn't say that. I guess when I was really young, we had demo discs and you just wear them out, right? Playing all the demos. But since getting older, I don't typically dip my toes into demo playing. I just, I look and see if it's got pretty good reviews, and I just take the shot at a sale most of the time and buy something and play it that way. So, but how's it been going, demoing?
Oh, really good. I have a couple of like highlights. I do want to bring forward just a few that I want to just touch on a little bit, but really there's some really awesome indie games like that are close to coming out that caught my eye. The reason why I actually been doing it more in the last couple of times they've done it is the Steam Deck. It's super easy just to go on there in the store, just kind of scroll through some demos, download 20 of them, and then like just play for 10 minutes. And then if you're really into the demo, you can play for a little longer, whatever. The ones that caught my eye or like actually caught my attention quite a bit. The first one is called El Paso Elsewhere. And it's kind of a Max Payne kind of reimagining or remake, or not remake, but like taking the idea of bullet time, third person action, and putting it into like a vampire horror like mood. It has that Alan Wake and like Max Payne Remedy feel to it, where like you go into a room and like the title card, boom, like giant font on the screen, like first floor, you know, and then you like go in there with your gun, and it's like, man, I left all my pills at home, and then you have to go get all the pills off the counter and like take pills to like, you know, boost up your bullet time and stuff. So basically you're doing similar to Max Payne, where you're bullet timing into enemies and shotgunning them in the face and stuff, and there's like these vampire dudes and like creatures crawling around the ground, and it just has this really cool like lo-fi like late 90s, early 2000s Matrix vibe to it, and it just has that little bit of coolness to it, right? Like the main character is just like, seems like he's too cool for school, you know, that type of vibe. And I played this demo probably for like an hour and a half. Like I just like really got into this demo because it was just addicting gameplay, and I thought the story was kind of fun. It's kind of loose, like you're in this hotel that's like has a million floors to it, and basically you're trying to get to the top of it, I think, something like that, and each floor is just like a different world. So like you go to the next floor and you're like in a cemetery, you go to another floor, you're like in an entire floor that's just bathrooms, so you're just fighting in a bunch of bathrooms, you know, stuff like that, you know, and they kind of play with that. And they do like one stage that's like super early where you just have like the pistol and the shotgun, and then they give you like another area that's like you can go, it's like the cemetery, like I said, but you have like 10 guns, so it's like later in the game. So you can kind of get a taste of what the game feels like later on. And I'm like, yeah, this is just so my bag. I'm really looking forward to trying that out and like actually playing it when it comes out. So
does it have like the classic PS2 graphics? That's what I always think of for Max Payne. Or did they try to like polish it up?
No, it's think like Metal Gear Solid 1 Snake with the smooth face.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Blocky head. It's that. But of course, the lighting is like modern, so like it's like that style with nice modern lighting and stuff. So it has just a very unique look to it. So definitely check that out. Put that on your wish list, like if it looks interesting to you or if you're into Max Payne. So
awesome.
Okay, I'm just gonna mention 2 more. One's called Don't Stop. It's a first-person shooter, and the whole concept is you can't stop, and you have to meet different goals. So say, okay, you got to kill this bad guy across. It's all usually like on rooftops, things like Mirror's Edge or something like that, and you pick up guns, and you basically just have to keep running. If you stop, you're dead. Like you die, and you start that run over again. So
it's like the opposite of Super Hot or something.
Yeah, like you're pretty much
constantly move.
Yeah, basically constantly moving, and like the whole point is just to keep your momentum going. And if you, there's like a robot voice is like "Don't stop" like that over the intercom, and like you have to just mow down as many dudes as you can, picking up weapons and items around the environment, throwing them at bad guys, stuff like that, and just let's just say like you have one objective per area, so it's like go kill this guy. Okay, go blow up those barrels. Okay, and then it's usually maybe like a 30-second stage each time, but you're on rooftops just trying to figure out the puzzle to go do that without stopping. So that had me very addicted. Like I was playing that for a while, and then I'm like, okay, I get what this is going for. And I do think that one would be more of like a mouse and keyboard game. Like I see that being a little smoother than trying to use thumbsticks, but really fun. I think that should be on people's radar if that's your type of game. So
cool.
And then one more. It's called Skater Gator 3D, and it's Skater SK8R G8R Skater Gator 3D. Edgy. Yes. It's very Saturday morning cartoon 90s vibe. Just from the title, you can probably tell that already. 3D platformer. You're a alligator with a backwards baseball cap on a skateboard, skating around, killing bugs and jumping on things. And it's just as a collectible, collectathon platformer that's kind of more isometric. You're kind of looking down on the character a little more than like behind the character, like a Spyro or something like that.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's just super fun. Really, just put me in a good mood playing. So that's if you're in like to a 3D platformer mood, I think that would be one to keep on your radar. So there's just a few that I lightly touched on. I actually probably played like 20 or so, but I don't want to just sit here and just start listing games. Those are the ones that stick out the most to me.
Do you think any of those 3 games are going to like hit the big time or whatever? Or are they going to like be super mainstream, or do you think they'll all be kind of closet indies?
I think that El Paso Elsewhere game is going to be like people are going to be talking about it at the end of the year this year, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's that stand out to me, and I feel like I've seen it. I've heard it a couple times on podcasts, like in passing, like bigger podcasts, like Giant Bomb and Kind of Funny, stuff like that. And maybe, it'll be one of those where people are like putting on top 10 lists. You never know. I know it got like a lot of wish lists and stuff just because of this demo event. I think that's really cool that they have the opportunity to put out something like that to get the word out there,
Yeah, for sure. Well, you're talking about the demos that you've been playing on Steam, and it did remind me that I wanted to kind of put out a PSA, and I'm sure you also want to put out the same PSA, Josh, but just everybody that's listening should go check out Steam in general, not just for the demo scene right now, because there is the summer sale is going on. Mm-hmm. And I didn't check. I honestly should have checked, but I'm willing to bet that the vast majority, like high percentage of the games that are currently on the quest log are probably on sale right now. So
I should be doing my if Twitter worked better right now, maybe I'll just blame Twitter. But I should be on there like posting all the deals for everything off the quest log. But there is quite a bit. I was looking at a couple, that I was like, thinking about getting them. I haven't actually pulled the trigger. I do this thing shopping anywhere. I'll just put it in my cart and then I'll just leave it there. And then I'm like, okay, let me think about it for a couple days, and then I'll come back to it, take one off, put a new one on, and it's just like, eventually I will make a purchase. I just haven't yet. So
yeah, I did purchase some stuff that it's like, okay, I am absolutely buying that. I'm trying to think of something. I got a really good deal on one game that I don't want to mention because I'm assuming I will bring it to IndieQuest someday. So I won't say that one, but it's a very good game, and I got it for like $2, I will say.
Nice. And I was going to say, there's a game that we actually talked about maybe possibly doing a review, little teaser maybe, if we want to do that later on. We might not do it, but something that I'm going to buy that game. So just so you know, I'm going to have that game we talked about.
I feel like we've talked about a few games. I don't even know which one you're talking about. Oh.
More recently, yes.
yes. I know which one you're talking. I already have that game.
Okay,
so
cool.
I did not buy that one, but yeah. I mean, I bought. This is not indie, and I mentioned it in the Discord, but I bought Just Cause 3 for $3.
Yeah,
$3, just wild for that game. So, I mean, there's just all kinds of shit.
Yeah, especially if you don't have like 500 Steam games, you can start building a library super fast doing that.
But anyway, Josh, I think you had some showcase to talk about.
I just wanted to touch on the Annapurna Interactive Showcase because I feel like they always do a really good job of saying, hey, this is what we have, and they always usually have something or a few things that are interesting in it. I know you watched it as well. Is there anything that stuck out to you for this?
I've got about 3 games out off the top. We've already talked about this one, and we might have talked about it, the very last episode. They just showed some more footage of Cocoon. That's starting to look like a day one type thing for me, honestly. It's just scratching that itch, I guess, that's something that I want to play right now, but I will have to wait a few months, obviously. But it looks...
Right, and it's coming out September 29th. That was the big announcement there for that. And...
yeah.
I think that's going to be like, we're going to be sitting around like in January next year, like, okay, what's the games that we liked the most last year? I think that's going to be on most of our list, if not close to the top. I have high expectations, so hopefully it hits them because it looks really cool. One I wanted to mention real quick is called To a T. It's like T-O-T.
Yeah.
It just looks so charming, and it's the Katamari developer, so they made Wadum as well. It's going to be fun. It's going to be bubbly. It has a theme song that plays in the trailer, so go watch this trailer if you haven't already. And the whole concept of the game is you're a kid that's stuck in a T-pose, and shenanigans ensue. So that looks just hilarious to me.
It didn't really give us, from what I saw from the trailer, it doesn't really give us a good idea of like what gameplay might exactly be like. They just kind of like, I think they know that it's going to be a good enough game that they don't have to show that. And they can just like give you a nice little trailer, and everybody's going to be all in on it anyway. Because I completely agree. I don't know what that game is about at all, other than you're stuck in a T, and I still want to play it. There's a dog. I mean, it looks fun.
I don't know if it's some kind of like commentary on something, or it's just cute or whatever. But honestly, I mean, there's a scene where he starts flying away. Has a cute dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, ninja
like
helicopter.
A ninja helicopter.
I don't know. It just and then like the song's like "You're a perfect shape" and all this stuff. So it's gonna just have that vibe.
Yeah.
All right. Any other ones? Well, go ahead and just tell me the other two you got, and we'll chat about it a little bit.
I did not. I'm assuming that people have seen this prior to this showcase, but I don't often go looking for stuff that's coming out ahead of time. Often I just will jump on Steam, as I've said before, and just buy a game. So. I think that Lorelei and Laser Eyes, I think it's called Lorelei and Laser Eyes.
You're right.
Or something like that. looks very intriguing. It seems like it's going to be a puzzle game, but that trailer was one of the most well done trailers at just like getting the audience interested in that game, because it was just weird trailer. with all these puzzles popping on the screen randomly and the guy talking in the background and just echoing puzzle, puzzle, puzzle. And it just, it was
like
wild.
he was repeating
was
something
really
like, did you close the door or something? I forget what it was, but yeah, I don't remember what he was saying, but
yeah,
that looks so bizarre. I don't know if it's supposed to be like scary or just like eerie or what, but it definitely has a vibe, I would say, right?
There's very spooky imagery, that's for sure. And that's part of the draw too. On top of the fact that it just seems like it's going to be a puzzle game. They have all these people with like red eyes in the background, stuff like it's kind of wild. It looked interesting. So I'll be happy to check that one out. And then the other one that I found cool, and honestly, I don't think maybe not day one, but we talk about games, and I don't even want to sell this short, right? And we've said before that side quest games are not necessarily bad games. They can be very good games, but we've talked before about how certain games just seem like they set out to be a side quest, like that's their goal. And the game Flock really looked like a comfy side quest and something I would just want to, it's just like the coziest, chillest game that you can actually just float around with your friends. Like it just looked really fun.
Yeah, it looks just kind of like a relax and kind of collect floating fish. Yes. Have a good time. I don't know what the actual objective is, or if there is an objective. I just feel like the objective is just to chill. You know, you're just chilling out in this beautiful landscape, right? Yeah,
my guess was it's a mix of Pokemon Snap and Pikmin, just because you have your flock following you. There's not really, doesn't seem like Pikmin mechanics. I don't think you can use your fish for different things, but there could be. I think it's just like you collect the fish you like to look at and you can float around with your friends. But I mean, there's probably going to be more to it. And it seemed like the actual fish catching mechanic was pretty cool. How you have to be like so far away and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm interested.
Well, I got two to just wrap it up real quick. One's going to be super fast. This first one here. Ghostbike. The trailer was cool, right? I thought it was cool. You're kind of like a dude, cartoony looking with a skeleton head on the front of his bike. But the reason I'm excited for this is the studio behind it is Messhoff Studio, and they made Nidhogg and Nidhogg 2. And I love Nidhogg, and I think seeing them do something that is not a competitive fighting game they have a weird sense of humor, they have really great art direction. Nidhogg 2 is just one of the coolest looking 16-bit games I've ever seen. It's freaking gross. It's like kind of like disturbing looking, you know. And I just want to see what they can come up with outside of that, you know, original concept of just let's fight, you know. So that's cool. Yes. Definitely on my radar. And then last but not least is Thirsty Suitors. I think I've talked about this before. And it's a little RPG. It's a little bit of a cooking simulator, it looked like in there. I don't know. It has a little bit of everything. I feel like this game has just every style of game in it. I don't know. But the main concept is, I think you're just trying to, I don't know, RPG about your exes, you know. I don't know. It just looks kind of cool. I know it's about family. I don't know a lot about it, really. I just like the trailer looks cool. There's a whole line about, oh my God, your thighs are so powerful. I don't know. Yeah, so it just looked kind of fun, you know.
Yeah, it's just wild and out there from what I've seen. It reminds me, it has like Guitar Hero graphics, I feel like.
Yeah, like the background dude dancing around.
Yes.
But it's just definitely one of those that they wanted to make that game. Like, you can tell that the developers were like, this is the game we want to make, and they made it, you know, so that's awesome.
For sure.
All right, well, go check that out if you haven't. I always find those to be a really fun watch, those Annapurna Interactive little things. We discussed most of the games there, but there's a couple we didn't hit upon. But, you know, we love Annapurna. I know Steve would be really happy to hear that we talked about it. He's a big fan of the company, too. They always publish some really cool stuff. So I think that's our little interlude. What we do here on IndieQuest is we bring indie games to our ever-growing list called the Quest Log. Woo! It has two sections. The main quest, which is a game you can recommend to everybody, your mom, your dog, your best friend, and it's just like with a bullet. This game's amazing. You need to check it out right now. Go buy it. Doesn't matter if it's on sale, just rush out and buy it right away. And then a side quest game is, this game is actually really fun. I liked it. I had a good time with it. This is a recommended game, but maybe just put it to the side when you're in the mood for that style of game. Like, it's not a bad game. Every game we bring here on IndieQuest is a game we recommend. So, who wants to go first? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first? I know your game's a little more lengthy, so if you want to go first, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go first, mostly because I feel like I lied to you a little bit last episode. Because you probably don't even remember the conversation that we had anymore, but I just have to get it off my chest. We talked a little bit last episode about how I am a closet Pokemon fan. And you recommended a game to me. Do you remember what game that was?
Yeah, it was Cassette Beast. Did you play it?
I was basically done with it when we were talking.
So you were trying to play it off. You're trying to be cool. You're like, I never heard of that. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh yeah, I think I heard of that. That's a pretty cool game. I should check that one out. But yeah, I mean, I was a cool 20 hours into that game when we were talking last week, at least.
Oh, awesome.
2 weeks ago.
I'm actually excited to hear about this game because it just looks cool. I think the art style and everything looks awesome. So I want to hear your take on it. What did you think about it? And what is the game? Let them know.
Yeah, so Cassette Beasts is a monster collecting turn-based RPG. Think Pokemon. We'll get into some of the differences from Pokemon. It's definitely not Pokemon. I think a lot of people get caught up in, oh, this is a clone. There's a couple different games, indie games, that are fairly popular that are almost, at least in the battle style, like direct rip-offs of Pokemon. I think they're Koromon, Nexomon. Those are two that I remember that I've seen some gameplay for, where it's like Pokemon or monster on one side, monster on the other side, battling each other just like Pokemon. Cassette Beast is not that way, and we'll get into that in some of the gameplay section. But before that, it was released this year, April 26th. It is on PC, which is where I played it, Xbox, and it's on Game Pass currently. So anybody who has Game Pass has no excuse not to go check this one out. And it's also on the Switch. And I will mention right at the top, I experienced a couple weird performance issues. And it sounds like it's way worse on Switch. So I just want to give everyone a heads up about that prior to like even getting into the gameplay. If you are sensitive at all to stuttering, I certainly wouldn't get it on the Switch, because it sounds like maybe they've patched it in the last couple of weeks. Maybe they've patched it in the last month. I've heard things that it's very stuttery on the Switch. Like the Switch cannot handle that game for some reason. It's just not optimized well for it.
Well, just maybe like give it a quick Google, like before you go buy it, just to see if it's fixed, if the issues are fixed. Yeah, that's a good thing to be wary of, for sure.
Right. It would be a great handheld game. It would be a great Steam Deck game.
Ooh.
Like, you can't do that with Game Pass, but as far as I know, right? But it would be fun, and it's probably because I'm so used to playing Pokemon on a handheld, right? But it would be very fun to play that game handheld. So it would be nice to be able to play it on Switch. Definitely check out, see what the performance issues are. My personal performance issues were just some stuttering every once in a while. Like when I would load a new zone, it would stutter for like 3 frames and be a little annoying. And then I'd be going about my day, right? Or about my game, I guess. So it's not something that was a detraction for me. But it was apparent, it was noticeable, and I just wanted to get it right out of the gate since we were talking about the different systems. It was developed by, I think it's Bitten Studios, Bytten. And yeah, that will lead us right into gameplay. So, this is a very interesting quote-unquote Pokemon clone, because it does things it takes certain things from Pokemon and games that are like Pokemon, and then it just takes a whole lot of inspirations from a bunch of different other games that most of us retro video game players will appreciate. I certainly appreciate it. So the overworld travel is actually very reminiscent to me of 2D Zelda games, specifically the original Legend of Zelda. And that's because Cassette Beast is actually an open world game. From the get-go, you can go basically anywhere your feet can take you. With a caveat, it's one of the first times I can remember, and I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to think of how most open world games don't do this. It's almost a strangely gated open world because, like in Pokemon, there are things called HMs in Pokemon, hidden moves, and you have to get the HM, give it to one of your Pokemon, at least in the retro games, and then you can do things like surf across the water, and you can use strength to move boulders and things like that. There are also those things in this game, except it's not nearly as obtrusive where you have to actually make sure you have a Pokemon in your party that can do it. All you have to do is get a monster that has that ability one time. You don't have to have that monster in your party. As soon as you get them, then you automatically have the move for the rest of the game. So there's things like dashes and flying, so you can actually like glide from one rock to another rock and dashes around. And there's also the surfing thing. Like at the beginning of the game, you can actually jump into water, but you'll just sink and come back on land. But once you get a specific monster, you can float across the water for a certain period of time. You do have a stamina bar that will go down, and then eventually once it goes red and you have none left and you're still in the water, it will kick you back off again. Same thing with dashing, same thing with flying. Like you have to make sure you manage your stamina. But the nice thing is you do gain stamina over time by completing certain objectives throughout the game, right? So that will lead us right into battling. So battling in this game takes, like I said, some inspirations from Pokemon, but really flips it on its head and makes it so, to me, this is a much more strategic, tactical game than Pokemon. Pokemon is meant for a very young audience. Cassette Beast is not. There are some pretty mature themes. I don't think I would have my son or my stepson play this game right out of the gate. I'd probably wait a couple of years because there is just some more adult theme type stuff within this game. And also the battling itself is more, like I said, strategic. So from the get-go, you actually end up getting several partners, several NPCs that will come along with you. But you start off with one named Kaylee, and she kind of shows you the ropes of how to actually control the Cassette Beast, get a Cassette Beast yourself, and then how to go about getting more and things like that. But you always have two people in your party for the entire game. So you have yourself and whoever your partner is at that time. You transform with your cassette player into the Cassette Beast. So each Cassette Beast has their own set of abilities, has their own typing, which plays into different type advantages, rock, paper, scissors type stuff. But the big difference between in Pokemon, if you have a fire type and you're going against a grass type, right, your fire type attacks the grass type with a fire type move and you do double damage, right? That's Pokemon. That's rock, paper, scissors. That's in a lot of games. Fire Emblem does it too with the lance, the sword, and the axe, right? It's a whole rock, paper, scissors type grid. Cassette Beast does that. There are weaknesses and strengths, but it does it in a very different way, which is extremely interesting. Rather than just making it do more damage, it actually changes or grants the other type something. So one of the coolest things in Pokemon, if I use a fire type to attack a water type, it's going to do half damage. That's it. In Cassette Beast, if I use a fire type to attack a water type, it's going to do normal damage. Nothing does like super effective damage, but it will grant that water type this buff called Steam that heals them every single turn for 3 turns.
Oh,
which is, yes, it's just different. There are yeah, go ahead.
So pretty much when it is rock, paper, scissors, but instead of it like doing a direct effect, you get like a status effect on the character. It sounds like, yeah. Yes.
Another one is there are plastic types in this game. There's a bunch of different weird types.
Yeah, plastic for like cassettes, right? Is that? the thought behind that one? Yeah.
Yes, kind of. And there's a little bit of an underlining like pollution thing, right? Where there's plastic cassette beasts, and they came to be because there was pollution, and they kind of transformed into these beasts and blah blah blah. But if a fire type attacks a plastic type, it melts them, and they turn into a poison type instead.
Oh, that's cool.
Because you melt it down and it's toxic now. So it's very, very interesting in that way. So in order to capture cassette beasts, you have to record, which is, cassette player, right? So you're recording them. You're going against a wild cassette beast. Either yourself or your partner records, and it's going to be a certain percentage. You have to have blank tapes in order to get them, but it's going to be a certain percentage. And then your partner or you, whoever isn't recording, has an opportunity to attack that cassette beast, do as much damage as possible to get that percentage to then go up even further. And if you get it all the way up to 100%, of course, you're going to have a 100% chance of capturing it. But of course, even at 20%, sometimes you still have a chance of capturing. So, very interesting compared to just throwing a Pokeball, right? And you don't really know the odds. There are odds in the background of how rare it is to catch a certain type of Pokemon, right? But in Cassette Beast, right out of the gate, what are my chances? And the cool thing is, you can't knock out the Cassette Beast. That's always the annoying thing in Pokemon, is you want to do so much damage, but not too much damage. Whereas in Cassette Beast, you can record right at the beginning of the battle and just do as much damage as possible. If you fail this time, then you're going to have another chance to do it next time, which is neat. Cassette Beasts have their own health bar on top of the human character's health bar, which is pretty awesome. Like it's a very unique thing. So if your Cassette Beast dies, or basically breaks, right? Your cassette breaks. Now the human is stuck out there, and as a human, you're defenseless. You have no moves. You can't do anything. You basically have to wait out the turn and hope that the enemy doesn't just constantly target the human, because if the human dies, you lose all health, then you're done. You can't be revived. You have to rely on your other party member at that point. If both humans die, you lose. But as long as the cassette breaks and the human's still left standing at the end of the turn, then you can just grab another cassette because you can carry 6 cassettes at a time, and you can just plug that other cassette on top and you're good to go. You're a new beast, right? So each cassette beast carries all kinds of different abilities. They learn them as they level up, which is really cool because it's kind of that randomness. You're not quite sure what you're going to learn next. So you're always trying to level up every cassette beast to get to that next level to see what you get as a new move. And on top of that, the coolest thing is, rather than being like a specific level 25 or level 30 or level 40 to evolve, every cassette has a star rating. Starts out at 0 stars, then goes up to 5. And as soon as you get to 5, the majority of cassette beasts can evolve. And then you can see, I think it's called, let me look, it's called something other. Oh, remaster.
Okay.
Remaster, right?
Yeah.
The musical
keeping the theme
term.
for sure.
Yeah. Yep. And you remaster your cassette beast into a new form, and it's always like an evolved form, right? So I was absolutely addicted. I'll just say it now. I think I beat this game in about 28-ish hours. Okay. So for an RPG, really not terrible.
That's about a Pokemon length, right? Like a Pokemon game?
Yeah.
Like 25 to 30.
30 to 40.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool.
So, but I was just after getting, I didn't have to, right? I was just after getting every single cassette. Every single one I found, I would always record a new one, and then I would go back to the campfire where you can rest and restore health and everything, or back to town where you can rest. And I would get my newest cassette, and I would plug it into my party and start getting experience, try to get up to 5 and evolve it or remaster it. And I just wanted to complete or try to see everything that the game had to offer. I was just super addicted. I guess that's the collector in me, is trying, and has always been in Pokemon as well, like trying to collect everything I can, catch all the new kinds that I'd never seen before. So that was really cool. And it wasn't even necessarily like, oh, I want to see what this does in battle. I just always wanted to see what the remastered form of everything looked like, and see
Yeah, it's like, because, I mean, with Pokemon, you kind of would know, right? Like, you'd be like, okay, I know Pikachu's going to turn into Raichu, etc., right? You know what's going to come up. This is just a whole new set of monsters you've never seen.
All new.
So it's kind of just fun to... I can see the art style here. It's really cool. Like, it is like the amount of beasts. Is that like super high, like 800 and something like Pokemon? Or is it like you could probably see them all if you played?
Oh, you can easily. There's 120.
Okay.
120. And so it's less than the original Pokedex, right? So it's not anything crazy. But I will say, you don't, in the span, you don't ever feel like you're running out of new monsters to see. It seems like every zone, you're just seeing all kinds of new monsters. And you'll run up, you actually do fight trainers here and there. And they'll have a monster, and you can't record.
Are the trainers, are they named DJs?
No. Okay. No. There's all kinds of there's all kinds of different themes, but for the most part, they're just regular people. I'm going to get to kind of why the people are where you are here in a minute in the story section, but you know, sometimes those trainers will have a monster you've never seen before and you can't record it. And you're like, dang, I want that one. Like, it looks so cool. And so you're just hoping to get to the next area and be able to discover the new stuff that you saw before, right? So a little bit more on the battles before we get into some more of the presentation. There's an AP gauge that slowly goes up depending on what moves you use. So each move has so many points to use it. So let's say a move has 3 points and needs to be able to use it. You start out the battle with 2, so you will not be able to use that 3-point move at the beginning of battle. But every cassette beast has a move that costs nothing, and you can just use that right out of the gate, and then you'll get AP after the turn, and then you'll be able to use your 3-point move. So that's kind of how it works, right? So it reminds me a little bit of Bravely Default, with Brave and Default on a little bit scaled down version, or Octopath Traveler does something similar to that too, where you can build up your points and then unleash a huge attack if you can manage to get to that point, right? The other main thing that I thought was one of the coolest things when I discovered it could happen is you can actually fuse cassette beasts with your partner that you're traveling around with when you fill your fusion meter after you do something specific with that partner person, right? So usually you have to fulfill, there's like side quests and main quest stuff. A lot of the side quests revolve around your partner that you're traveling with at that time. You have to go, everybody has their own thing that they want to do in the world, right? So all your partners have a specific goal of things they want to do. So you have to help them fulfill whatever goal they want, and then you form a bond. And once you form a bond, you can fuse. And it's the coolest thing because it doesn't matter what cassette beast you have out as yourself and your partner, they fuse together. And apparently there's like some AI where there's 14 million possibilities of fusion. It just takes characteristics of each cassette beast and automatically randomizes them together to create this monstrosity of like pure perfect fusion of the two monsters.
So does it like really look cool. Good like when they do it, or is it sometimes you look at it like, ugh, that's like, how does that?
Sometimes it's like, what is that? What is on my screen right now? It looks goofy as can be. But sometimes you just get really surprised and you're like, wow, that looks awesome, you know? And so I kind of started to keep notes in my head of the stuff that was really cool looking, and I would try to fuse that stuff together as long as they had moves that made sense together, right? I would try to fuse those together because, some of them look really awesome. So, of course, there are boss fights, and once again, a la Pokemon, there are these people called Ranger Captains, which is like a whole other side quest, which is a main quest in itself, really, but you don't have to do any of it if you don't want to. But you can go up against these Ranger Captains that are around the region that are very strong, right? So you have to go up against them. They usually have a partner with them, and they do a specific thing tactically. Like there's a guy at the very beginning that you can fight. One of the moves is you can actually set up walls, almost like a substitute in Pokemon, where you can put a wall up in front of you and you won't get damaged for a couple turns, right? So that guy, all he ever does is use walls. So you kind of have to figure out strategically how to get around that and all the ranger captains have similar things where they try to take advantage of a specific strategy that's kind of hard to overcome. And then the boss fights, I will get into a little bit more of that in the story here in a moment, but there's these massive big boss fights against these guys called archangels, and when you fight them, they are actual monstrosities. Half of them are pretty scary looking, especially for the graphical style that we're looking at here. And there's like a static filter over the screen when you fight these archangels. Super cool environment to fight in, super creepy. One of the coolest things about this game is fighting those bosses, and they are legitimately tough. Like, you have to figure out a good strategy and be tactical when fighting them in order to not get wiped. So, but that will move me into presentation finally. So, everybody's been picturing different things or has already been Googling what this game looks like. It's a 2.5D, kind of reminds me of 3D Dot Game Heroes. I think that's what that game's called.
Yeah, that's a good description, I would say.
Yeah, it's a little bit less 3D than that game. I would say it's somewhere between what Pokemon or a 2D top-down type game looks like. Somewhere in between that and 3D Dot Game Heroes. It is very pretty, very sparkly, right? They utilize the filters that make everything look shiny, very colorful. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. All the monsters are extremely varied and unique. There's nothing that's... A lot of times in these games, you'll get sprite swaps, basically, where it's like, oh, we have 3 of these monsters, but they're all the same. One's purple, one's blue, and one's green.
It's a Scorpion and Sub-Zero effect, right?
Yes, exactly. And that does not happen in this game, other than there are these things called bootlegs, where you can get a monster that is of a different type than what it is commonly in. So think a fire type that you can find in the wild as a water type. And the cool thing about that is it's almost like a shiny. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance. So it's very rare to find those. And I found a few. So you can see them on the overworld. Sometimes they have like this staticky effect. And so as soon as you see them, you're like, you run over there and try to get to them before you hit anything else, right? So you don't lose them. But yeah, really cool to get those too. And of course, all of that stuff is tied to achievements. I think of any game I own on Steam, this game might have the most achievements. I think there's like 140. It's insane.
Damn.
Yeah.
I do want to comment that this game looks like the Pokemon anime, and its quirkiness and colorfulness. Like, it looks like an anime from how much colors are on the screen.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. So, it sounds very unique from all the things you're describing, like all the systems in it and things. It's like, take that inspiration and just like make it its own. Like, I love when games do that. So I think that's pretty much what it's doing here, from what I can tell.
Yes, it does for sure. And we'll get into it right now. We'll talk about the story. It leans much more mature than Pokemon ever could have been.
Right.
Because you're playing as adults, right? And everybody in the world, honestly, I can't even remember seeing a kid in the world at all. So the way that this world, it's called New Wirral, Wirral, I believe. And the way it was populated is people just keep randomly showing up. They don't even know why. You do the same thing. You just show up, washed up on this beach. You weren't on a ship prior. It's like you went to bed and all of a sudden the next day you're in New Wirral and no one knows why. And everyone attempted to find a way home for a while, but for the most part, everyone quit trying because it seems like there's no way off without, dying in the ocean or something, because it's an island. So everybody just kind of quit trying, and everyone started populating this world and making it their own. And that's part of the reason why no one really cares to leave after a while, because it's a very inviting place. Everyone's nice to each other. There are, evil entities and things that you're going up against. And not great people, but for the most part, everyone gets along. They built a couple different towns, a couple different cities, and everyone's kind of content. But it is still your main character's main purpose to get off the island and go home. So that's the main quest, what we're trying to follow the whole way. But we have all kinds of different side quests. And the coolest thing about this game, with the side quests is so many open world type games feel very fetch questy with the side quests, but it does not feel that way. Every single time I got something done in this game, it wasn't like go grab 3 mushrooms and come back and report back, and then go grab 5 more and then come back. There's nothing like that. It feels like everything is very purposeful, and you get more and more story and more background with every side quest you do, to the point where everything feels very intentional and well constructed and well laid out. So a glowing, review for the side quests. So often too many games just don't do side quests correctly.
Yeah.
And this
it's like side quests is like, dude, I need my broom. It's down the road. Can you go down the road and fight some monsters and then come back and bring me my broom?
Yes,
and that's the whole thing, and it sounds like they do more than that by a lot. So
for sure. It's much better, and you get so much more from your partners. I don't want to spoil a whole lot. I will say that eventually you get to have a dog as a partner, which is awesome.
What? Good boy.
Barkley. And Barkley uses a cassette tape. Yeah,
I got to play this now. Barkley the dog.
uses a cassette player and turns into monsters as well, so it's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
The main story has you follow these archangels, right? So you're basically you get told at the very beginning, it's not very spoiler yet, an archangel tells you need to keep going and defeating more archangels. Those are the big bosses in order to find a way off the island. So that's kind of the whole point of what you're doing. It's really epic. Things, toss and turn as you go through, and you find more rifts and cracks and things, and what you're doing isn't really right. And a very epic, grand story in that way. You find out that somebody's kind of controlling stuff behind the scenes. But I don't want to spoil too much. I don't think I really spoiled anything in saying any of that. I would say it's very well worth experiencing, and it was a really good beginning to end story, satisfying upon completion.
Awesome.
So that I think will just leave me with music.
I was going to ask you, you got to talk about the music, because Pokemon is like the thing I think about when I think Pokemon is I hear that theme in my head instantly. Either the theme song from the anime, or just like the music, the theme from, just town theme, from Pokemon,
For sure.
So how's the music?
And it's hilarious you say town theme, because the town theme in Cassette Beast is great. One of, if not the best themes in the entire game. I will definitely be bringing a song from this game to an IQ OST near you soon. It is an incredible soundtrack. Lots of strings, lots of piano. It seems like every single time they decided to play a song in every situation, it fits perfectly with what's going on. Sometimes things are very somber. It's like the town theme. It's very floaty, very lay in a hammock and chill out because you're in town and you don't have to worry about battling. Like there's nothing. You're just chilling. You're planning your team to go back out and adventure again. But when you're like fighting archangels, it's super creepy, super intimidating. The battle theme is very upbeat. It is a very good OST. The one detraction I will say, and it's not even really a detraction, it just was for me, and I think it actually was for a few others, because before I'd even bought the game, I was reading a couple reviews on Steam. A lot of the songs, which this makes it very unique too, but a lot of the songs have vocals. Specifically, they are sung by a girl named Shelby Harvey, and she is an incredible singer. Really good. Like, I'm not taking anything away from her and the job she did. I have listened to the OST several times all the way through since completing this game, and I'm happy to listen to her vocals every time because she's really good. For me personally, when I'm in story sections and trying to read, I don't do well with hearing vocals in the background. It's just my brain doesn't do well with it, right? So I'm listening to her words and trying to read words, and I'm not getting everything out of it. So what I ended up doing is, and fortunately, this is kind of a positive for the game as well. There's an option to turn vocals off in game, and I ended up doing that. So none of the songs had vocals. It was all instrumental, and the songs are still incredible and sound great. But I will say, I do love her singing within those same songs outside of the game to just listen to. They're great. I just not a big fan in game itself listening to vocals. Just a personal thing. So
totally fair. And if for the style of game it is, I guess there's more of like a ambiance, and instrumental would make more sense, right? For that type of game.
Yes. Right.
Cool.
So that will lead me to my verdict, Josh, unless you have any other things to mention.
Honestly,
or anything to ask.
You sound pretty glowing on it. It sounds like a pretty interesting take on the genre, I guess, like an RPG with like monsters that to fight each other with. I just think it's actually more in-depth and unique than it presents, I guess, from the trailers. Like the trailers do present it and you can kind of say, oh, it's kind of like Pokemon. But when you describe it and break it down, to me, it just sounds very wholly original, even more so, like they took the inspiration and made it its own thing. So where are you sitting on it? Is this a main quest or a side quest for you?
It's pretty easily, and I knew within a couple hours, it's pretty easily a main quest for me personally.
Okay.
I love these kinds of games. I am not shy about, well, at least on video game podcasts, I'm not shy about mentioning that I'm a huge Pokemon fan or a huge monster collecting fan. I also love Digimon. Anything that I can collect a monster and raise it as my own, I love that stuff. I've always been a huge fan of dogs, right? I just love the whole having a pet in your world, right? And being able to battle with it. I don't know. It's just fun. It's always intrigued me ever since I was a kid. And this does that with flying colors. But the nice thing is it's tailored for someone our age, right? It's not a very kiddie game wherever all the themes are based around what a 10-year-old cares about. It's tailored for a 20 to 30-year-old, 40-year-old person because it goes through the emotions and kind of the emotional roller coaster of things that we deal with in everyday life. And it's a much more fleshed out battle system than Pokemon. You have to actually think rather than just clicking A over and over again for the strongest move and just leveling everybody up, or leveling one Pokemon up and just steamrolling the whole game if that's what you want to do.
And then like the modern Pokemons, you level one character up and then they share XP, so you're just leveling your whole party up, right?
Yeah. It does do that. It does do that in this game. I didn't mention that, but it does do that in this game. But the thing is, the way that the cassette beasts work, right, is they only level up to 5 stars and then you have to remaster them. And if they're already remastered, that's as far as they can go. Okay. So it really relies upon your character level more than cassette beast level. Okay. If that makes sense, right? Yeah. So because your characters level up separately. But there is a difficulty changing system where you can, at least at the beginning of the game, you can pick. I'm not sure if you can pick throughout the game. I never tried. I just picked normal, but there is a hard, there is a very easy where it's just easy breezy. You don't have to worry about a thing. So extremely accessible to all audiences. But I will say, like I said earlier, there are some themes in here that I probably would not introduce to a kid right away, maybe a teenager, right? 13, 14 would probably be a good time for a kid to play this game. But there is some stuff in there, cursing and things like that, where I know my boys are hearing cursing. I know that's happening, but I like to think that that's not the case. But anyway, Cassette Beast, main quest.
Awesome, dude. Like, this sounds just really fun. I love stuff that harkens back to my childhood, so that's just touched me in the feels there for sure. Awesome, amazing pick. I recommended it to you and you were already playing it, which is nice.
Yeah.
We all live in a Pokemon world. That's in my head now, just so you know. All right.
Yep.
One thing before I go into my game. On Twitter, Jan Willem Nijman says, and we did it, guys. We did it. He says, super excited to announce Ridiculous Fishing EX, an expanded remaster of the 2013 classic, coming to Apple Arcade on July 14th. We did it. We brought it back. I mentioned it on the show. A few weeks later, the remaster's coming out. You know it's tied together. He heard me talk.
That was all you, Josh. It was just like Tails talking about Super Mario RPG, and all of a sudden there's a remake of that. And it's because they talked about it, and it took Nintendo 2 weeks to put that thing together because they knew how important it was. And it was the same thing for us. We're like,
Yeah.
man, ridiculous fishing. Where'd that thing go? And they're like, oh, get on it. And here we are.
It looks awesome. I'm excited to get back into that and play that again. But anyway, I did bring a game today.
Yeah.
So this game is a sequel to a game I've already brought in before to the quest log.
Oh.
Do you have a guess?
Well, now I'm trying to think of... Oh, yes. I think I know what it is.
Oh, you know what it is, most likely. It's Sludge Life 2. Brought
It
Sludge
is.
Life 2. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I had to. So this is... Okay. The first game is a side quest game. We'll see if this one gets to the main quest. We'll have a conversation about it. But I will say it's more Sludge Life. So what is Sludge Life? What's this series all about? So basically you got a weird... I don't know how to describe the art style, like a semi-cel shaded world. You're in first person, and you explore it and graffiti tag it and interact with people and get the storyline. That's pretty much the main gist of the gameplay. You're doing 3D first person platforming puzzles to get to new areas to tag and to talk to new weird crazy characters. The first one I would say is the first idea they had. Like, this is like, okay, it really does feel like, I think both of these games are pretty much like you're watching Adult Swim at 2:30 a.m. and then they just have a random 15-minute like weird cartoon that comes on. This is literally that in a video game, and it's a sequel to that video game. So the first one was successful, I think. They had enough money or time or whatever and wanted to do more in the universe. And I think this one is better in a lot of ways. They give you something right off the bat called Vandal Eyes, which actually you can hold down like the use button, which I think is like the RB or the right trigger, something like that on controller, and it will actually kind of point out where these tags are. So a lot of the times you'll be just like jumping around like, okay, where should I go next? You're just kind of like, oh, I mean, the main goal of the story is you're trying to find Big Mud. He's a rapper, and you guys had a horrible night or amazing night, right? And you're having your hangover. It's like a hangover situation where you're trying to figure out where he is. And you're just talking to dudes, trying to figure out where to go next and tagging in place. And there's cats with two buttholes. There are dogs.
Would love that.
Dogs smoking cigarettes. There's the whole entire hotel that you're in is based around this cigarette mascot named Siggy. It's this like giant red head with like cigarettes coming out of its mouth. The pause menu is literally like a computer laptop that you pull up to your face, and then like you can play games on the laptop that you find inside the environment. And whenever you're done with the pause menu, you just throw the laptop, and then you can just keep doing that if you want. It just has this weird, edgy, kind of gross sense of humor to it. Like it's something hard to recommend to anybody. Like I know Vyar, he played the first one. He's like, this game sucks. And then Guido played it and he's like, yeah, this game's awesome. I get it. Like you just either get it or you don't get it. So to me, the humor really is, sometimes you roll your eyes at some comments. Sometimes you just like there's a line in the game. It's this, they didn't review bomb Russia in a day or something like that, you know, just some dumb joke like that. And then like it's like it keeps on just layering more jokes. So pretty much what you're doing is you're just exploring. Like I love exploring this game because you go into a room, you never know what's going to happen, and you never know who you're going to talk to or what you're going to see. Half of the fun of this game is just exploring in it and like just finding the weird jokes. And what happens in the characters are always in the same spot, so they're not like pathing around or anything. So what it really feels like is you're just in a moment in time, just like a diorama, just experiencing what the people are doing. So there's like a dog eating an infinite hot dog that comes out of a wall. You can push a button and the hot dog will keep coming out, and the dog will just keep eating the hot dog. Doesn't matter how long you do it. I mean, it's just like, it's just joke upon joke upon joke upon joke. And I just find a lot of enjoyment from it. And I think that the creators is Terry Velman and Dose One. And Dose One does all the music. The music just rocks. Like, it's just like really weird, ambient, like kind of like experimental hip hop, and like a little bit of like chiptuniness to it sometimes, a little bit of grunginess, a lot of grunginess, I would say. There's like a lot of little touches, like when you like go on your pause screen, let it sit for a while, like the screensaver will come on and it's all trippy looking. It's just like this game is just full of Easter eggs, and I think that it's just the whole point of it is just to just go around and enjoy it and experience it, I guess.
Dose 1 did the music for Gungeon too. Do you know that?
Yeah, he does a lot of soundtracks, and I think like he's actually this is like some of his game development stuff, because I know those two worked on Disc Room and like a couple of other games. One called, I'm just looking right now, High Hell, which I don't know much about that one, but those two work on games together, and then of course Dose 1 makes music, so it's like basically based around that. And yeah, like it's a storyline. Like the storyline's ridiculous. Like Big Mud. So basically, like Sludge Life, it's like a world in the future that's like super polluted, like very, very polluted, and maybe like 50 plus years from now. And so you're basically inside of like kind of like an oil rig, like the city is, or the hotel, and like the entire area around you is just like a layer of like sludgy oil crap that you can run through and stuff, and there's stuff out in the sludge. I won't spoil that. This game has multiple endings, so part of the fun is you get little like story threads, and you're like, what if I go here? Maybe I can get this item. And then you do get items. You get like, for example, let's see, like I said, the Vandal Eyes, which you first get right away, help you find objectives. You get shoes that give you a double jump. You get a teleport pad thing that you can teleport between these pads. There's 10 of them throughout the landscape. So just the ease of travel if you're going back and forth. Or maybe maybe I'll go up there later, and then you're like, okay, let's teleport back to the pad 3, and then go up on that skyscraper, that I saw an hour ago. And I think that the discovery element of this game is what makes this game shine. And I don't know, like I said, it's not for everybody, but I thought that the 3 endings were pretty good. There's one that's not as good as the others. It kind of just ends. You're like, okay, but there's like 2 like crazy set piece endings that you have to basically get all the tags, get all the everything to actually unlock like the final super ending, basically. And if you do that, it took me about, I think 6 hours, 5.5 hours to do that, to like explore everything, find everything, and
get all the endings.
To get all the
6 hours to get. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's a short game. I'm not going to say it's long. If you want to just play it, like you can get one of the endings pretty quickly. Like I think I got the first ending in like an hour and a half-ish. Like I'm like, oh, you take this item to this thing, and then okay, triggered an ending. And I'm like, that's not all of the game. There's no way, because there's like 3 question marks I have, and then it was like, and then it all wraps up in different ways. And then basically, if you beat the game, it just puts you back into the world. You can keep exploring, talking to people. But yeah, like I said, people don't really change. So it's like once you go through a room and you experience what the weird situation is, like you're not going to see much difference each time you go to an area. So it's all about just kind of like noodling around, picking up objects, trying to find the tags. The tags are always really fun to get to. Sometimes it's using like you get like a jump pad little thing that you can throw down and jump on, like get really high up. Some of those spray tag things, they look like they're just literally floating spray cans that you can like interact with, and then you'll like tag the surface. So it really just depends on what it means to get up there. Like you'll see one up really high, you're like, how am I going to get up there? And then you get an item for it, So yeah, it's just, to me, the gameplay plays pretty good. But mainly you're there, and the draw is the atmosphere, the weird Adult Swim at 2:30 a.m., like I said, feel to it, and the humor, and then the cool music. So, yeah.
So not a lot of replay value, right? If you finish this, there's not a whole lot of reason unless you just want the nostalgia of when you played it the last time. There's just not
pretty
much
much
else to see.
And then, like, it's kind of like any comedy where, the jokes, they're going to land the first time. You'll get a good chuckle out of it. And then maybe not the second time, or maybe depends on the person, So,
well, how would you? I think the elephant in the room, and you didn't. You touched on this very slightly at the beginning,
right?
How would you compare Sludge Life 2 to Sludge Life?
Oh, the original. Okay, so the original is smaller in scope, I would say. I think that game's like 2 hours or something like that, 2 or 3 hours. The humor is very similar. It's literally a continuation of that storyline. It's not too much after that one. So I would say I would recommend playing the first one and then the second one if you're going to play these. But I do think this one is better because there's a little bit of friction in trying to like explore the first world of Sludge Life. I just couldn't find some of the tags. I think them having a little thing to help you try to figure out where things are in the world instead of just like, oh, go figure it out, I think helps out quite a bit to make this not as, frustrating trying to find all the collectibles, so
they kind of learned and grew from the first and made a better Sludge Life, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So this is a better Sludge Life, but is it a main quest?
That's the question.
It's a side quest as well. I think this one's going to be a side quest too.
Oh, okay.
But this is the first game. I'm going to say it's a side quest game, but to me personally, it's a main quest. Like I would put it on, if I had a personal, just for me, quest log, this would be on a main quest for me. But I think for like the general people that this show's for everybody, this is a side quest game. Like if you're into like if you watch just watch a trailer for either one of these games. And if that atmosphere and the weird, just, I don't know, the grunginess gets to you and you want to check it out, I'd say check it out. They're cheap too. They're usually like under $10. I think I paid like one. So really fun, really entertaining games to me. I would, if they made a Sludge Life 3, I'll be here playing it and enjoying it, I'm sure. So,
hey, I think it's completely fine for you to say side quest for the majority, main quest for me. I mean, that's the way I am with games like Into the Gungeon, Downwell, right? Where it's just, they are tailored for a certain person, namely me and people like me, and not so much for the masses, right? Which is in a very different way. Sludge Life is like that. Right. Obviously, they're very different games from those games, right? But the weirdness and stuff of them.
It's just so weird, and they're not afraid to do just poop jokes, like stuff like that. Like. It literally feels like what's that jail show on Adult Swim? I can't think of it.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'm looking it up. I got that.
I can't
Super
remember.
Jail. That's it. Super Jail. It feels like it has a similar humor to that. If you've seen Super Jail, you'll be like, okay, yeah. I would say maybe like tangentially or whatever, but yeah. But
I mean, it's the same as, I personally enjoy Aqua Teen Hunger Force, but the majority of people, I
like that.
I think that's probably one of the more popular Adult Swim cartoons or whatever, but it's very strange. If you just like are just a random person, turn on your TV and Aqua Teen Hunger Force is on, you're gonna be like, what is this?
Yeah,
why are
I would
French
say
that
talking? if this was like if they made an animated show of this, it would fit perfectly like in a rock block with those type of shows. So yeah, super entertaining. I recommend people who are into that style of just go into a room, just see what happens. And I do think it kind of has a beauty in that, just like with a poop joke, at the end of the road sometimes. But yeah, whatever. A lot of jokes about how awesome cigarettes are. I mean, they love cigarettes in this world. Everybody smokes cigarettes. You can smoke cigarettes. You can give people cigarettes. That's actually one of the collectibles, is give 10 people in the environment cigarettes. So, yeah, it's good times.
It's funny.
We got a main quest in Cassette Piece, side quest, Sludge Life 2. And we talked about a bunch of other indie games, and I think that that's going to wrap us up for this episode. And that means it's time to plug ourselves. What does Travis always say? Plug ourselves because it feels so good, right?
It feels so good.
Yeah. All right. You can find the show at IndieQuest Pod for now until Twitter explodes. I think we've been making that joke for a while. And you can send us an email at IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you play Cassette Beast, you have a comment on it, you played Sludge Life 2, you watch the Annapurna Interactive thing, any comment or just something that you want to ask us a question about video games or indie games or anything like that, send us an email. We'll read it on the show and have a conversation. You can find the rest of the shows in the network at Polymedia Network. I know I'm doing this out of order, but that's okay. what's a show on the network that people can check out?
I kind of shouted it out earlier, but everybody should go check out Tales of the Lesser Medium and watch or listen to that Super Mario RPG episode to prepare themselves for the eventual release of the new and improved Super Mario RPG in full 3D. What's a show you like on Polymedia Network, Josh?
It's a show called Split Up with, Mook and Dylan. And they bring horror games, horror movies, talk about them. And I feel like that show's pretty funny. Like, I always get a good laugh out of that show, like, especially the last couple episodes. There's a bunch more over there if you like movies, video games, entertainment, nostalgia. Go to polymedianetwork.com. Check out a podcast. And we should plug ourselves. That was the first thing I said and didn't even get around to it. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at Captain Drachma on Twitter and, of course, in the Polymedia Discord. Best place on the internet. And also, Josh was talking about how you can drop us an email. I have been trying to be as good as possible after these episodes release about putting them onto our Polymedia Reddit as well. So r/Polymedia. Come and chat with us over there after the episode goes live. Josh, where can they find you?
You can find me at Frantic Society on Twitter, and then hopefully on another platform when that one finally explodes. I'm also on the Discord too. Everybody's on the Discord. That's a fun place to hang out. So I really recommend getting on that Discord. Just go to the Patreon and check it out. So we're done with the show. We chatted so much about indie games. I'm full. Why don't you do some parting words for the folks out there?
So I'm actually going to, I kind of thought about this throughout the episode. Usually I don't. Usually I'm somehow caught off guard every time, even though it's just me and Josh for the past couple episodes. Like, oh no, I need to say something. But this time I thought about it, and I want everyone to go check out the Steam sale. And if you have the time and could email or go to the Polymedia Discord, recommend us a game that's not on the quest log yet, but you really enjoy, that's got a nice sale, because I am all for trying out games that people are playing, and no better time to try out a game than when it's on sale. Buy it for cheap. So, see you, everybody.
See ya. We all live in a Pokemon. Okay, I'll stop.